This is Deadzone the Podcast presents
Warzone Eternal.
Welcome to the Deadzone Podcast. Deadzone is the sci-fi tabletop.
So I'm going to do a jungle board.
No, nice. Cool.
And so I've got a bunch. No, it looks like Brian's frozen again.
Am I? Or was I just looking down?
No,
No, we don't even have a picture.
Oh, for me, he does. He's this.
I have what is that? Mega Man?
Oh.
Yeah, Mega Man.
Now there you are. Now you're moving again.
Now I'm moving again? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I'm wondering if it's getting angry that I have audio recording with the separate software and recording the video side, but we'll see if it goes. Yeah. We'll see. Like if it continues to cause trouble, we'll just. I've got the audio files are saving out each time, so.
Cool.
All right, cool. Well, in that case, let's get rolling. So welcome to another episode of Warzone Eternal. I'm your host, Rick, and with me is...
Alex from Resnova.
And we have a special guest. We have Bryan from Deadzone the Podcast.
Hi, guys. I'm Bryan from Deadzone the Podcast. I made it onto the show.
Welcome, Bryan, to your own show.
I mean,
It's
it
great to be here, guys. Great to be here. Thank you so much. No, really though, it is great to actually be able to join for one of these episodes. Glad it worked out this time, and cool. I'm excited to hear what's going on.
Yeah, with each of these episodes we've done, yes, Alex and I and Rick for Thunderforge Studios are the main parts, but Bryan does all the back end work on these episodes, which we really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yep. Well outside of my wheelhouse.
And fingers crossed that this recording is going great. You won't hear about it in post if it did not.
That's right.
So, Alex, it's been a few months.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we sitting at with the Kickstarter right now?
So the Kickstarter, we're currently still in the open back. Actually, was the backer kit even open when we did our last episode?
The last episode, it was not open yet.
Yeah, you were just working on it.
All right, so the backer kit has been open now for just over a month. About a month and a half now. We opened up in September. And that's been going great, right? We're probably at about 80% completion, and I haven't even sent any emails yet saying, hey, guys, come on, let's get your backer kits completed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's been really good. We're going to keep that open until December, or sometime in December. I'll be attending PAX Unplugged, and Resnova will be exhibiting there. We got a small booth running demos throughout the entire convention, so we wanted to keep the backer kit open for late pledges for anyone who might come across the game at PAX Unplugged and think, yeah, this is cool, I want to jump on this. So that's where we're at in terms of kind of the backer kit aspect of it. Yeah. In terms of just working towards production and fulfillment. Actually, last week, I guess this will be like 2 weeks or so ago now, when this goes live. I had a meeting with our miniature production partner, and mold making is starting on a couple of the units, right? And we've got 105 miniatures, I think it is, in total as part of the Kickstarter. So there's a lot of logistics there that goes into trying to figure out how do you set up molds, right? You don't want to have 105 individual molds. So how do you do what they call family molding, right? So putting multiple figures into one mold. How do you do that in such a way that's the most efficient? Allows you to use the smallest number of molds while still most efficiently producing the number of models you need for the starter sets, the unit boxes, etc. So a lot of calculations there. Again, I'm fortunate to have good, competent people doing that. And I can just say, oh, here you go. Here's the list of figures as of right now. So that's happening. The beta rules released just about the same time as the backer kit. So that's been out for, again, about a month or so.
Yep.
And by the time this episode comes out, the updated or revised beta should be out in people's hands. Yeah, so the beta has been received really well. The Discord channel in particular is really active. To be clear, it's not a Resnova Discord channel. It's a fan-run Discord channel, but it's a place that Bryan and I hang out on.
It's a good way to put it.
yeah, it's been cool. So a lot of feedback
I had
there.
to turn off my notifications.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely.
If this thing keeps going off, I need to turn it off at least while I'm at work.
Yep. No, without a doubt. And it's been cool, right? Because a lot of people are weighing in on, their experiences with the beta, asking questions about, am I interpreting things correctly? But then also posting pictures of, here's my terrain layout. Is this enough terrain for a Warzone Eternal battle? Or, hey, these are the proxies I'm using for this new unit type. Or I dug out my old models and I've started repainting them. Check them out. So it's been a really cool community. But there, on the Warzone Eternal Facebook page, right? There's been a lot of people asking questions about it, and in general, the beta seems to have gone over well. But that does mean, because we've had a lot of people playing it, that there've been a lot of small tweaks that Bryan and I have needed to make, things that people have identified, where the language wasn't perfectly clear, or even, now that we've seen units in play in greater number than we ever saw just in our play test. I mean, we had 20 play testers, right? But but even them, with the number of games they played, they haven't put as many models on the board as all the people playing the beta rules have. So a bunch of small tweaks there, some stat changes, nothing significant, but enough that I think we're getting closer and closer to that really tight final product that Bryan and I want, right? The product that we're hoping is going to allow us to minimize the number of errata documents we've got to put out, makes the core rule book a reliable resource for as long as possible.
So when you released the beta, just before you released it, were there any big changes that you had to make that because of what you were looking at? Or was it pretty much alpha to beta with just a few tweaks?
No, actually, there was, and it's funny, right? Because I mean, alpha, and I'm no developer, I'm no IT developer, I'm no project manager, so I probably use these terms absolutely incorrectly. But I mean, the previous iterations, right? The documents that were the work in progress prior to the release of the beta. I mean, that we probably went through 30 plus iterations, right? And so there's just a massive number of things that have changed significantly from when Bryan and I first started working till the release of the beta. But even just before the release of the beta, there are changes between the Kickstarter rules preview that we released and the beta document. And a lot of that came from, experiences that people reflected upon when we did the demos at Gen Con, right? Because Gen Con was the first time that we really had, a fair number of people play the game who were not playtesters.
Yeah.
Adepticon, Origins, those were both, good places for us to run short little demos, but they're just demos at a booth. And so you don't really get to see, the types of interactions that make you realize that, we've got something we should tweak here. And so, for instance, coming out of Gen Con, one of the things that Bryan and I realized was close combat melee just needed to be more rewarding, right? It's hard to get into melee. Warzone is still, it's a kind of a techno fantasy game, right? So you got guys running around with swords, but it's still a game where guys are shooting each other, right? So it's hard all the time, right?
All the time.
So it's hard to get into melee. but you want to encourage people to still try it because it is a part of the narrative. So really, right, other than trying to put in, mechanics that make guys untargetable as they're moving across the battlefield, or kind of shticks that you throw out there to make a unit get into combat, we just really wanted to make it rewarding, right? You're going to try to do it because if you get into combat, your Hatamoto is just going to annihilate whoever he makes it into combat with. So I think that was one of the significant areas of change was making Melee more rewarding just before the beta was put out.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very cool. Sorry.
Yay.
Yep. No, that's okay.
So state of the game. So the beta's going. Production is doing what it's supposed to be doing on the Kickstarter end. You said you have a convention coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. PAX Unplugged. What are you doing there?
So Resnova is actually exhibiting. We'll have a booth there. I don't have the booth number off the top of my head. But if you check out the PAX Unplugged exhibitor list, I think that's been made public. You can find us listed there. So we'll have a booth, a 10x10 booth, and we'll be running. I will be running demos all weekend long. Bryan has got a deadline conflict, so he can't make it out to the show. So it'll be for the most part me holding down the fort. But so PAX Unplugged, right? It's a cool convention. It's I think not even 7 years old at this point. And it had actually been one of the first conventions that Resnova ever went to and exhibited. We were running
that the card game?
Yeah, demos for Dungeon Slayer, the card game we had been working on. And so that was the first PAX Unplugged. Went out there, our buddies at Rat Trap Productions, the two of us shared a booth and hung out all weekend. It was awesome. And so I've been going back every single year. And for the last several, right, it's been just to kind of go as a participant, right? Play some games, check out the exhibitors hall. So it'll be the first time in years that we're going back and we're actually, holding down a booth and running demos throughout the convention.
Right on. So with PAX Unplugged, so anybody that was at Gen Con or AdeptCon, are they going to see the same amazing board you had?
No. Wow, no, I kind of feel like you set me up. No,
what a segue.
They will not see that amazing board. They will see a inferior version of the So PAX. PAX is not a miniatures convention, right? So you're kind of trying to appeal to a different market, and it's a significantly longer drive than Adepticon is for me. So trying to figure out how to make the booth a little bit more efficient in terms of transportation. So we're going with a couple different tables than we've used at other shows, and as part of that means that the Elgaroth ruined Citadel is just a bit too big to fit in the space that we've got. Yeah. So we'll be putting down a smaller terrain board that I'm building for the show. It'll be tighter, easier for people who aren't sure about what this is to kind of approach it and not feel over.
Uh-oh.
Alex, we cannot hear you anymore.
Alex froze with his arms out.
Oh no. Skype. There we go.
I was completely kicked out. Skype just dropped.
Oh geez.
Weird.
Yeah.
Come on, Skype. Hang in there.
That is going to be a difficult edit right there, Brian.
That's fine.
Oh man.
So the board you had at Adeptcon, that was some ruins?
Yeah, so Dave Taylor built that board. It was a 3x3 board, and it was kind of like the outskirts of an Elgaroth citadel, right? So there were some steps leading up to it that suggested a citadel in the background, pillars that were knocked over, a trench line with a couple bunkers, a few of those bunkers destroyed. And so it gave the sense of a an Elgroth citadel that had been, overrun or was in the process of being overrun. And so it was a really cool board. Dave Taylor is a hell of an artist, and that one came out really well. So this board for PAX will not be a Dave Taylor board. It will be an Alex board. But again, it'll be smaller, a little bit more approachable for people who are unsure about miniatures games, and allow them to jump into kind of a meaningful demo a lot quicker, right? Nobody kind of wandering around the board for a couple turns, repositioning. They'll be, within combat range right away.
Jump right on and show how the game actually plays.
Yeah, exactly right. Yep.
Now, do you have an idea for the theme of the board?
So it's going to be a jungle board. We're going to do Capital and Mishima starter sets for the board, and so we're going to use something that's supposed to evoke the Graviton Archipelago on Venus, right? Which is this jungle-filled series of islands and swamps. So it's a cool setting. I think I've mentioned this on the show before. It's my favorite setting of the Mutant Chronicles universe. So something like that.
Right on.
Yeah. No, it'll be cool. I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, PAX is a different show, right? It's while Gen Con is kind of this really established, massive thing, appeals to everyone. Origins is kind of feels like a smaller version of Gen Con. Adepticon is a full-on miniatures convention. PAX Unplugged is this sort of different thing, right? I mean, it's more in the line of an Origins or Gen Con in that it appeals to a larger cross-section of gamers, but at the same time, it's new enough and it's run by people who don't come from gaming convention backgrounds, so they've kind of done their own thing.
Yeah, because PAX originally wasn't a video game.
The Penny Arcade.
Penny Arcade, launched PAX, and they've got a bunch of them: PAX East, PAX West, PAX Australia, because Penny Arcade's association was with video games, it really started out as primarily a video game convention, but then the guys behind Penny Arcade really started becoming more interested in tabletop games, RPGs. I mean, they're the ones who did Acquisitions Incorporated, which was probably one of the first big actual plays, right? Them and Critical Role. Mm-hmm. So as part of that, their PAX shows started having a larger and larger, presence of traditional tabletop gaming, and then eventually PAX Unplugged was just their answer to let's disconnect from digital for one of our shows completely and just do a tabletop show.
That's really cool.
Yeah. It's a good show. It just feels really different. It feels small yet not small. It's hard to describe. And then Philadelphia's a neat city. You're there near Christmas. You're right downtown, right? It's all the stereotypical like big city downtown Christmas decorations and stuff. So it's cool.
Hey, I'm Chopper.
I'm Bryan.
And I'm Rob.
From Mobile Armor Radio.
And you are listening to Deadzone, the podcast with Rick and Bryan in the morning.
Never heard of it.
I don't even know who those guys are.
Right on. So one of the other things that, like, we didn't talk about it towards the beginning, but one of the big reasons why we have Bryan on the show is the two of you have collaborated on something for Warzone Eternal. How about you guys tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So let me know, Alex, if any of this is covered by NDA and I shouldn't speak. But we've been working on, one of the tools that's become kind of ubiquitous with wargaming these days is list builder tools. and making those available for people to build their list online or via an app or something along those lines. And so that's actually what we've been working on. I have a technical software background, and Alex and I kind of connected on that front. And I've been working on putting together the list builder software kind of in the background. And I suppose this is maybe the first announcement that it exists. So that's always fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's been mentioned a few times, perhaps in passing, maybe on the Discord. But yeah, no, in general, we wanted to have, exactly as Bryan said, we wanted to have an army builder because people have come to rely on those as part of the experience of playing a miniatures game. And it's not something we promised as part of the Kickstarter, right? This is really something that it was a hope, and Bryan brings a skill set that I obviously do not, and so being able to roll that thing out hopefully in time for the actual fulfillment of the Kickstarter, so that when people are putting together their lists, they can actually be using this army builder in order to tweak things, play around with things. I mean, hell, if we can get it out early enough, maybe it becomes something for people to mess around with while they're waiting for their fulfillment.
Oh yeah,
absolutely, and it's been coming together really nicely. It's been fun to the latest update, and I was just telling Alex about this. I've been working on the actual logic behind the rules kind of around list building criteria. So it's like the most specific one being how some units have like a required troop tax, or as you might call it, where certain units have to have a unit from the same kind of troop type to be included in the list, and so he starts building out your list that way, and working in kind of the extra exceptions of that, where it's like you can do it from any of the categories or any of the types, and we do kind of see it as a product that's going to continue to grow with the game. At first we're going to be pretty straight kind of list building. You'll be able to select a faction, select the units that you want to include in that, and then be able to print out that list either as a PDF or on paper, and including with some of the rules that come with like the abilities and stuff. And then from there we're looking at making that a much more robust system down the road. We've got some features and extra goodies that we've been coordinating and figuring out exactly how we want to make that take shape. And it's I think we'll be right on track. I hope to have it out even just for kind of some general beta testing of its own in the very near future here. So be on the lookout for that.
That's cool. I mean, that's definitely a big thing when it comes to these games nowadays. Is everybody likes their list builders?
Yep. No, absolutely. I mean, and, the thing is, right? You can always look at the unit cards. You can download the unit cards when those are obviously available. But being able to just sit down with an app and quickly move figures around or move units around and play with unit construction and have something that catches you when you've built an illegal list, right? It's a lot easier to use those kind of things to play around with the ideas of various list potential builds than it is to look at a stack of cards and try to organize things that way. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about it. It's again, it was something that I'd hoped that we could do. It's hard to look at a company the size of Resnova and presume that that's something we're going to be able to roll out. So the fact that it looks like it's a reality is cool. It's exciting.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So Bryan, since we got you on here,
yes,
another question to fire at you. What about Warzone Eternal lore-wise do you know?
So mostly what I've been gleaning from the podcast episodes, actually. I'm not incredibly familiar with the setting. Like I'd heard its name prior to kind of this project becoming front and center for us. And so I kind of knew that it existed, but didn't know much about it. And so kind of through osmosis, you might say, of editing the podcast episodes, been kind of learning more and more about, that there, the different factions and how like there's stuff going on Mars and all these other planets and everything. So it sounds like a very fascinating setting with a lot of rich opportunity for storytelling as well.
I obviously think so. So good job. Good job.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Bryan, since we got Alex here, do you have any lore questions for him? Because from what I can tell with the episodes I've done with him, he kind of knows the lore.
Yeah.
Well, like one thing that I did find fascinating in the discussions, and this might just be because I come from a pretty Mantic focused set of games, you might say, like the kind of extra focus or attention that you guys have like on heroic characters and like these named characters that have like a rich history behind them. I really love that element because it means like when you take him, this one here, what was the trencher guy? I forget.
Dave?
Trencher Dave.
Trencher Dave. To be clear, that's entirely a Bryan CP Steele creation on the fly in response to an Adepticon demo where a trencher survived way more wounding shots than it ever should have. But I think that's a great example, though, right? Because that's one of the things that we want to do is we want to kind of encourage the idea that every model that you put on the board, right? Because it's a skirmish game, it's an individual model game. Every model arguably is somebody, right? Mm-hmm. And so it gives you a chance to go through these games and kind of have this emergent narrative that kind of pops up, and particular characters kind of take on a life that's a bit bigger than just their plastic and their stat card. So yeah, no, absolutely. That's something that's something I think that this universe does a really good job of.
It's awesome to hear. And like in the similar vein, like obviously I know that kind of priority one is get the game out, get it into people's hands, get them playing and everything. But I was curious, like with the setting being as rich as it is, do you foresee yourselves kind of taking some of that narrative into another level, or telling your own stories, or like setting up campaigns or things like that players can then pick up and go through campaigns as well?
Yeah. So to the latter part of that question, the kind of campaigns are very much where Bryan and I want to spend a lot of the time with this game, right? There's again, we're a small company, so the opportunity to just continue to pump out brand new miniatures, unit after unit after unit, is just not something that's sustainable for us. But what we can do, right, is spend a lot of time, and I think people who've listened to this podcast before might have heard me say something similar to this. But what we can do is give you, as a player, more opportunities to use those figures that you have, right, to play the game you're used to in a different way. And we can do that through campaigns, right? We can send characters we can send the battlefield specifically into certain regions, right? The deserts of Mars, the jungles of Venus, deep in the asteroid belt, etc. And all of those can allow us to push the scenarios in a less balanced way than you would see, kind of in the core rules. Because then we're worried more about creating, again, these narrative experiences as opposed to these tightly tailored, balanced scenarios. And then through that, right, introduce, variant environmental rules, or, new secondary objectives that are keyed to, the particular theme of that campaign. So campaign packs like that are very much a place that Bryan and I want to go. To the first part of your question, right, the idea of telling our own stories. So one of the things that we don't want to do is take this established lore and say, okay, now we're going to put the Res Nova spin on it, right? We're going to go and take it in this direction. The setting for Warzone and Mutant Chronicles is big enough that there are a multitude of stories that can be told without us having to advance lore, right? To advance the storyline. There are thousands of war zones scattered across, Mercury, Mars, Venus, the asteroid belt, on Dark Eden, and all of those are an opportunity for people to play through, some sort of cool encounter. Through doing so, advance the narrative a little bit, but you're advancing the narrative again in these small places that don't disrupt kind of the larger story.
Sure.
So with that wealth of opportunities in front of us or available to us, there isn't a real strong desire or incentive to do things like push the storyline forward, right? Have Alakai's Citadel fall, or the Graviton Archipelago get completely taken by Capital, or whatever might make sense. None of those are things that we need to do in order to get fuel for cool and interesting stories that people can play through.
For sure. And even just as we were kind of talking earlier, like the Adventures of Trencher Dave are like a fun set of missions or stories or adventures that this random character could have within the setting that doesn't upset the balance or create any knee-jerk reactions that could happen here,
Right.
or stuff like that, and gives that ability to almost create your own new characters that can kind of live in the space but still have a strong narrative behind them. So that's really cool, and I really like that about the setting, the direction you guys are going.
Cool. Yeah. No. And I hope that when we get to that point, right, that people see, oh, this is what they're talking about, and that they feel that it's an ad, it's a positive addition to the core gameplay experience.
Yeah. So speaking of that lore and stuff, you have a couple short stories that are coming out with the Kickstarter, right?
Yeah. Well, so we've got I think it was 5 short stories that pretty much every backer of the Kickstarter are going to get a PDF copy of. There's a 6th one that is in the printed compilation that you could choose to pick up in the Kickstarter. And then the rulebook itself is going to have, and they're not even short stories, right? They're more like vignettes. They're really short.
Yeah.
But there's probably 6 more of those in the core rulebook. So hopefully through all of that stuff, people who are new to the universe are going to really feel like there's enough meat there for them to understand, this is what the universe feels like. This is what the tech level of the universe is. This is what the environments that the battles happen. This is what the environments look like.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be a chance for there to be those kind of like campaign style gameplay set on those stories?
Yeah, I mean, with all the short stories being kind of short enough, there's probably not enough meat on the bone there in order to, build those into a campaign itself. But yeah, I mean, I think that, a lot of them could be used as inspiration for the type of, campaign games that we're talking about. I mean, there's, but I don't want to like throw out, all the features, but I mean,
sure.
For instance, there's a short story that maybe is set on Dark Eden, right? And so that's that's a really cool environment to have games in, and that's a place that we want to eventually get to. And when I say we want to get there, people who are longtime fans are like, oh my gosh, the tribes! You're going to do the tribes! You're going to do full armies for all the tribes. And it's like, well, okay, let's. There's 2 things there, right? There's doing the tribes as distinct factions, but there's also getting to the point of fleshing out Dark Eden enough that it becomes a cool, interesting place to set your battles, right?
Sure.
And so that's that's one of the first ways we're going to encounter Dark Eden. But yeah, so I think the short stories are all they capture the type of environments that a game of Warzone could be set in, and could be used as kind of imagination fuel for campaigns that people might want to do on their own.
Excellent.
That worked. Well, with that, I think that about wraps us up. Unless you have anything you want to throw out at us, Alex, or you, Bryan.
I don't want to throw anything at people.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I guess for those people who do listen to this, if you have not completed your backer kit, please jump in there and take care of that. Again, the backer kit will will close in December. The exact date as to be determined as of yet. And then, just if you haven't gotten a chance to play the beta, play the beta. Let us know. Post to the Facebook group, join the Discord, and actually,
we love pictures.
Yes,
yeah, absolutely. And actually, on Mondays, one of the Discord regulars has kind of coordinated a every Monday night Warzone Discord chat.
Yeah.
And it's cool. There's kind of a growing number of people that are in there, and I try to pop in for at least a bit almost every week just to kind of field questions about the beta or just chat, because obviously I like talking about Warzone.
Always a good sign.
Yeah.
Well, with that, thank you guys, and of course follow us on all those social platforms, both Deadzone the podcast and Breast Nova.
Yeah, and then make sure you check out the booth at the Penny Arcade Expo Unplugged, PAX Unplugged on December 1st through the 3rd.
Yep, I'll be there. Trust,
Bryan,
please come talk to me.
All right, have a good night, guys.
All right, you too. Thanks a lot.